A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to tonight's edition of Primetime News, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I am Arundhati Mudanayaka. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
"19 people identified with Delta COVID-19 variant. Interprovincial travel restricted until the 19th of July. Sri Lanka receives 1 million Sinopharm jabs, a stock of Pfizer vaccines to reach the country tomorrow. Sri Lanka Freedom Party's revelation on the economic crisis.
කොච්චර බරපතලද කිව්වොත් එහෙම මේ වෙන විට අපේ විනිමය සංචිත දීර්ඝකාලීන යුද්ධයක් තියෙන ඇෆ්ගනිස්තානයටත් වඩා බරපතලයි.
Philippines military aircraft crash leaves 29 dead and 17 missing.
And now the stories in detail. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa paid his respects to the sacred tooth relic at the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
The Temple of the Tooth Relics lay custodian Pradeep Nilangadala and Central Province Governor Lalit Gamage received the Prime Minister today. The Prime Minister paid his respects to the sacred tooth relic and called on the Anunayaka of the Askeri chapter, Most Venerable Dhammadasi Ratanapala Thera. He then called on Most Venerable Sri Siddhartha Sumangala Thera, who is the Mahanayaka of the Malvathu chapter. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa then called on the Anunayaka of the Malvathu chapter, Most Venerable Dimbul Kumbure Sri Saranankara Vimaladhamma Thera, and Most Venerable Dr. Niyangoda Vijitasiri Anunayaka Thera. The Prime Minister then obtained blessings from the Mahanayaka of the Askeri chapter, Most Venerable Varakagoda Dhammasiddhi Sri Panyananda Jnanarathanabhidhana Thera. He then called on the Anunayaka of the Askeri chapter, Most Venerable Vindaduwe Upali Thera. The Prime Minister, who visited the Rajopavarnarama temple in Gatambe, obtained the blessings of the chief incumbent, Venerable Kepetiagoda Sirivimala Thera. The Prime Minister had drawn his attention towards refurbishing the walls of the Mahavali River that run near the Gatambe Bodhia. According to the Prime Minister's office, the Prime Minister had instructed the project to be carried out under the purview of State Minister Indika Anuruddha. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister, who visited the Askeri Mahapirivena, obtained blessings of the Deputy Registrar of the Askeri chapter, Venerable Narampanave Ananda Thera.
Authorities have announced that the interprovincial travel restrictions will be in effect until the 19th of July. The Health Ministry has also released a new set of guidelines in line with the COVID-19 pandemic.
According to the guidelines issued by the Health Ministry, public transport services will be allowed to operate at half capacity. But in the Western Province, public transport services can operate with a capacity of 30%. The number of passengers who can travel in private transport or taxis has been limited to the number of seats. Only 10 customers will be permitted at a time at banks and financial institutions. Wedding ceremonies cannot be held until further notice. However, marriage registrations can take place with the participation of 10 people, including the bride and the groom. The final rites of a deceased person must be fulfilled within 24 hours of releasing the body with the participation of 15 people. Cinema halls, parks, swimming pools, pubs, bars, casinos and betting centers should also remain closed. The revised guidelines have permitted spas to be kept open. A comprehensive update on the revised guidelines are on our website www.newsfirst.lk.
An aircraft carrying a batch of the Chinese Sinopharm vaccine landed in Sri Lanka this morning.
1 million vials of the Sinopharm vaccine arrived in the island today, increasing the total number of Sinopharm vaccines in the country to 5.1 million.
In which areas will this vaccine be administered?
We hope to use the vaccines that we received today to vaccinate everyone above the age of 30 in the Western Province. We will also use it to vaccinate people above the age of 60 in the other districts. Teachers and groups that provide essential services will also be vaccinated.
Meanwhile, the first batch of Pfizer vaccines is due to be delivered to Sri Lanka. The first batch of these vaccines will include 26,000 doses, while a total of 200,000 Pfizer vaccines will be brought to the country by the end of this month.
who will the Pfizer vaccine be administered to?
Sri Lanka is the first country to receive the Pfizer vaccine in the whole of South Asia. A specialist committee at the Ministry of Health are currently considering on who the vaccine should be administered to. The day before yesterday, we received a request to use the Pfizer vaccine as the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. The Committee on Contagious Diseases at the Ministry of Health has recommended this. It has also been revealed that the Pfizer vaccine is very safe for pregnant mothers. We have received requests to provide this vaccine to pregnant mothers as well.
However, about 600,000 people who received the first dose of the AstraZeneca Covishield vaccine have not received their second jab yet. Last month, the President's media division announced that vaccine doses will be given to Sri Lanka by Japan.
The Honorable President made a special request from Japan asking them to provide us with the AstraZeneca vaccines. We have received confirmation that we will receive a batch of these vaccines under the COVAX facility of the World Health Organization. We have not received confirmation on the exact date and time yet, but we expect these vaccines to be delivered by the last week of this month or the first week of August.
The Ministry of Health confirmed that a total of 19 people have been identified with the Delta variant of COVID-19 in the country. The cases were reported from Galle, Mathura, Trincomalee and Colombo districts.
The Delta variant of COVID-19 was first detected in Sri Lanka when 5 residents of Demutagoda tested positive for the variant.
14 people were identified with the Delta variant in Colombo 9, 10 and 14. In Galle and Mathura, we have identified 1 patient in each area. In addition, a few patients were identified at the National Institute of Mental Health. All the patients who were identified with this variant in the Colombo Municipal Council have been treated and sent home for quarantine. There is only 1 patient still receiving treatment.
Sri Lanka Freedom Party Senior Vice Chairman Rohana Lakshman Piyadas expressed the following views on the country's economic crisis today.
සියලුම ආර්ථික විද්‍යාඥයින් සියලුම කෘෂි විද්‍යාඥයින් අදහස් පළ කරමින් තිබෙනවා මේ රටේ අම්මාකාරක බරපතල ගැටලුවක්.
All economic experts and agricultural experts have been affected due to this severe crisis. The situation is so bad that our foreign currency reserves are lower than that in Afghanistan, which has been affected by a long-standing war. This portrays the economic crisis in the country. They keep issuing the 5,000 rupee allowance by printing money. This will cause some repercussions. The foreign exchange rate will increase. Cost of goods will increase. The prices of goods, including a bar of soap, has risen. I saw reports that they are planning to halt the imports of consumer goods, such as televisions and mobile phones. The people are fed up. Yesterday, I saw reports to the effect that they are planning to import a vehicle for the chairman of a corporation. These are being discussed among the public circles. They are engaging in commercial activities after sweeping massive tax scams under the carpet. Where are the youth and the farmers who place their trust in this government? I feel that the necessary steps must be taken to address this crisis.
Farmers staged protests demanding a solution to the fertilizer crisis today.
Farmers of Galledanda in Valimada staged a protest, demanding a solution to the fertilizer crisis.
ආසරණ ගොවියන් අන්ත අසරණ වෙලා ඉන්නේ මේකට විකල්පයක් හොයලා එපා මේකට මොනාරි කරන්න මගේ මේ කුඹර පුරන් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ අත්තරලා බලන්න අපේ දුක ගැන නොමිලේ පොහොර පම්පෝරිය දෙනවා කිව්ව
Farmers of Ahatuava in Kurunagala staged a protest today.
සහන පොහොර දෙනවා කියලා අපිට ඉස්සෙල්ලා කියලා මිනිසුන්ගේ ඡන්ද ටික කොල්ල කෑවා. කොල්ල කාලා ඉවරලා අද මේ පොහොරත් නැහැ, කඩේ ගන්නවත් පොහොර නැහැ.
මේ ගොවින්ට ඊළඟ කන්න වලට වගා කරන්න, එළවලු වගා කරන්න කාබනික.
Farmers don't have chemical or organic fertilizer to cultivate for the next season. This is what the farmers are pointing out by taking to the streets. They don't grant fertilizer or even purchase their produce properly. When farmers take to the streets against this, we will provide the leadership for this. They are issuing orders to arrest us. You can arrest me. Here I am. We respect court orders. We respect the country's law as well. But we will not bow down to the orders of the government. Farmers of Haldaduwane in Puttalam staged a protest, seeking a solution to the fertilizer crisis.
Meanwhile, politicians expressed various views on the fertilizer crisis in the country.
Heavy criticism was leveled towards the president regarding fertilizer. We obtained those views by taking into consideration the people of this country and the youth as well.
The terminology that is being used to describe a country free of chemical food is attractive. They say that this measure is being taken to prevent foreign currency outflows. This is a long-term plan and not something that can be done overnight.
There is no issue in that. Minister Mahindananda has prepared a work plan on this. It will take place successfully. We will not allow farmers to face any inconveniences due to this. That is because we will stand unconditionally for the protection of farmers, fishermen and the workers of our country.
The president won't backtrack on his decision. We will undertake efforts at rural levels to overcome the fertilizer challenge. Expenses will increase, but compensation will be provided. We will make the necessary arrangements to support this transition.
No one in the government can claim that they are doing this based on the whims of a certain individual. The government must take measures that can be enjoyed by the people. This is a democratic country. There is no fertilizer. Farmers require fertilizer regardless of whether it is chemical or organic fertilizer. This could have been avoided if the government made decisions by obtaining the opinions of the experts and those with a proper understanding of the subject. But what has happened at present is that the government made the decision. A committee was appointed only after that. Various views are being expressed as a result of this. Now it is a phase of trial and error. Farmers have not received adequate amounts of fertilizer.
ජනතාවට අවශ්‍ය ප්‍රමාණයට නොලැබීමේ ප්‍රශ්නය තමයි අද අපි දකින්නේ. ගින්නක් නැති තැනට දුමක් දකින්න අපිට හම්බ වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Today, two political parties continued their protests against the fertilizer shortage and the rise in the cost of living. These are some of the protests organized by the Samagi Jana Balawegaya.
A group of tea cultivators in Kottava, Gaul staged a protest today. The protesters paraded a coffin to symbolize the demise of agriculture. They later set the coffin ablaze. If the government can't hear our demands, we are ready to come to Colombo in the thousands and take back the fertilizer of the farmers. There are no conditions. Either give us the fertilizer or you can go home. These cultivators have spent their lives with these tea cultivations and gone head to head with the challenges that have come their way. If these people are asked to just stand by and do nothing, they cannot do that. We cannot just stand by and do nothing. When ships were sinking, fuel prices were rising and trees were being cut down, you asked us to stand by and do nothing. And we did that. But we cannot stand by and do nothing when these tea cultivations that give us life are being destroyed.
පස් අදිනකම් බලන් හිටියා. හැබැයි අපිට ජීවිතේ දෙන තේ ගහ මැරරක අපිට බලන් ඉන්න බෑ.
A group staged a protest march from the Dambulla town to the economic centre. These farmers have never been offered any concessions. Where are the eyes of the people in higher ranks? Why won't the eyes of the authorities see these farmers? Either provide these farmers with fertilizer or prepare for a great calamity in 6 months. A protest organised by the Samagi Jana Balavegye was staged at the Nagas Junction in Mandalava, Pugoda, Dompe. The truth is that there is no organic or chemical fertilizer, even if someone wanted to purchase it. The farmers of this country were hoodwinked. The farmers were deceived. In the words of Mahinda Rajapaksa, I will tell you now that after another 2 Vesak full moon Poya days, we will topple this government and show the people of this country what true prosperity is.
Meanwhile, the Women for Rights organization affiliated with the JVP held a protest in Horana today.
Recently, they looted funds through gas cylinders. They increased the price of goods afterwards. Today we can see that there is a conspiracy to increase the price of bread by 10 rupees. This government has failed to provide food to the people. We ask the government to reduce the price of goods immediately, provide concessions as well.
A protest was organised by the Janata Vimukti Peramuna opposite the Tissa Maharama Debaravaral fair.
At a time of a crisis, there is no one to bear responsibility for the people. The reason the Janata Vimukti Peramuna has taken to the streets in a democratic manner is because we want to portray what the people are facing.
Meanwhile, former MP of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, Samantha Vaidyaratna, says that the government is on the verge of suppressing the rights of the farming community.
How has the government addressed this issue? When farmers request fertilizer, the government directs them to prisons. The government is planning to arrest those who provide leadership to this movement. Yesterday, 5 of our members were arrested. There is no issue in that. We would like to say the government that the capacity in Sri Lankan prisons won't be adequate to stop this. They cannot stop the people from taking to the streets. This problem cannot be solved by arresting people. When they came into power, they highlighted the concept of one law and justice. But how is the law being implemented today? When farmers fight for fertilizer, they are being suppressed by arrests.
The Samagi Jana Balavegye has denounced moves to arrest 5 individuals, including the JVP's former provincial councillor Samantha Vidyaratna and the convener of the All Ceylon Farmers Federation, Namal Karunaratna.
The statement issued by party leader Sajid Premadasa called such moves as fascist and dictatorial and said the government has acted to amass power and not for the sake of the people. It points out that the people are taking to the streets out of frustration and that the government is adopting a policy of suppressing and threatening moves of that nature.
But time for a short commercial break. Stay with News First. We will be right back.
Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk.
Welcome back to the news. A finance ministry report has shown that the collection of certain taxes, including the special commodity levy and excise duty, has dropped during the first 4 months of this year.
The Finance Ministry report showed that the collection of income taxes, nation-building taxes, special commodity levy and excise duty had dropped in the first 4 months of 2021. The collection of special commodity levy had dropped to 20.5 billion rupees in the first 4 months compared to 24.1 billion recorded during the same period last year. The report attributes the drop to the downward rate changes of selected commodity items. Earlier, the Finance Ministry had admitted a foregone tax revenue of 15.9 billion rupees on sugar imports. This was after the special commodity levy was slashed from 50 rupees to just 25 cents for an imported kilo of sugar. At a time when the collection of tax in the country has declined, suspects involved in the bond scam that is dubbed as the largest financial fraud in Sri Lanka have resumed their business ventures in the country. The Excise Department has granted liquor manufacturer W.M. Mendes & Company Limited to resume operations after it agreed to settle all of its tax arrears. This was revealed in newspaper reports today. W.M. Mendes & Company Limited, which is owned by Arjuna Aloysius, a suspect in the central bank bond scam who is currently out on bail, had agreed to settle its tax arrears in installments and pay scheduled taxes every 15 days. Last year, the Inland Revenue Department had uncovered that W.M. Mendes & Company Limited had evaded taxes worth more than 6 billion rupees. This government came into power promising that the masterminds behind the April 21st attacks and the central bank bond scam will be punished. Today, the suspects behind them are being given privileges. Back then, Ranjan Ramanayaka said that all of them are thieves. That is the truth. The Rajapaksas and Vikramasinghas are close friends. It is clear that everything is happening according to their agenda. Ranil Vikramasinghe's decision to side with the Rajapaksas is the reason for the failure of the 2015 government. The procedure to punish the culprits behind theft, corruption and bribery was stalled by the Rajapaksas on behalf of Ranil Vikramasinghe and Arjuna Aloysius. Thieves never punish one of their own. Ranil Vikramasinghe was not present during decisive moments in Parliament such as the vote on the 20th Amendment and the vote on the Port City Economic Commission Bill. He came back to Parliament after those decisive moments had passed. There is a connection between these incidents. The Vikramasinghes, Rajapaksas and Aloysius all share the same agenda.
වික්‍රමසිංහලා රාජපක්ෂලා ඇලෝසියස්ලා එකම කටවුට් එකේ එකට ගහන්න පුළුවන් එකම වර්ගේ කට්ටිය.
The main slogan of the joint opposition was to punish the perpetrators of the April 21st attacks and the central bank bond scam, which is the biggest financial scam in the country's history. We have been forced to shoulder that responsibility. Against such a backdrop, it is not apt to allow the Mendes company to resume operations as it is owned by Arjuna Aloysius, who led the clan of Arjun Mahendran and others who were linked to the central bank bond scam. This is not good for the government or the country. We call on the Finance Ministry to revisit this decision. We have been speaking about the bond scam. A government came into power by levelling accusations that the bond scam took place in this country. Why aren't cases being filed in court? Cases must be filed against the suspects even if they are politicians, officers or employees at brokering firms. It doesn't matter even if they are in our party. Don't deceive the people. Always speak the truth.
අපේ පක්ෂේ වුණත් අපිට ගැටලුවක් නැහැ. බොරු කරන්න එපා මිනිස්සුන්ට. සත්‍යතාවය වැදගත් වෙනවා.
The W.M. Mendes company, owned by Arjun Mahendran's son-in-law Arjuna Aloysius, that benefited through the central bank bond scam was closed down under the government of good governance since 2018 as they failed to settle 1.5 billion rupees to the government. On the 1st of July, they allowed the W.M. Mendes company to resume operations by allowing them to pay 50 million out of the 1.5 billion and allowed them to settle the remainder across 2 years. It is fascinating to see all of them coming together. There was a billboard recently saying that Ranil is back. It has not been even a month since he entered Parliament, allowing his good friend Arjun Mahendran's son-in-law Arjuna Aloysius to open the distillery in less than a month since his entry to Parliament. Clearly shows that there is an underhand deal here. Will an ordinary person be given this chance? We feel that Ranil Wickremesinghe will join hands with the government in the future.
සාමාන්‍ය මිනිහෙකුට ඒ අවස්ථාව තියෙනවද? අනාගතයේදී වර්තමාන රජයත් එක්ක රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහත් එකතුව තමයි මේ වැඩපිළිවෙල යන්නේ කියන එක අපිට මනාව පැහැදිලිව පේනවා.
Leader of the United National Party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, has appointed a 5-member committee to provide recommendations for restructuring and strengthening the party. Weekend newspapers reported that the UNP's deputy leader, Ruwan Wijewardena, Chairman Wajira Abewardena, General Secretary Palitha Rangepandara and Vice Chairman Akila Viraj Karyawasam and Sagala Ratnayaka are members of this committee.
Various committees have been appointed in the past to restructure the United National Party. However, the recommendations of all these committees have never been implemented. The NGP Panditaratna Committee, the Pitapana Committee, the Mano Malik Committee and the Leadership Board led by Karu Jayasuriya are some examples. The recommendations of the committee led by Ruwan Wijewardena were never revealed to the country. Will the newly appointed committee be an extension of countless committees appointed for the same purpose in the past? Is the appointment of this committee a deceitful ploy aimed at simply killing time?
ඒ කාලේ අපි මේ පැල්කවි කිව්වේ පැල් රකින්න. පැල්කවි දැන් අද කියන්න වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මේ කැලේට අපේ මේ අහිංසක දරු පැටවුත් එක්ක අරගෙන ඇවිල්ලා මේ ළමින්ගේ අධ්‍යාපනය ලබා ගන්නතුරු මේ ළමින්ගේ ආරක්ෂාව වෙනුවෙන්.
Those were images of a teacher trying to provide online education to a group of less fortunate students. As the entire nation is grappled by the COVID-19 pandemic, students and teachers in rural Sri Lanka continue to face hardships in accessing online education platforms.
Online education for children in the villages of Athumdamuwava and Udagiruva in the Lunugala Divisional Secretariat of the Badula district is severely affected by poor reception. To get proper reception to access online education platforms, these children have to summit a mountain located 2 kilometers away from their village. Several teachers and parents accompany these students on this arduous journey that has now turned into an average day in the lives of these children.
We live in a village in the middle of a jungle. We don't have strong reception.
අපිට සිග්නල් අඩුයි. දුක හිතෙනවා ඉතින් සත්තු ඉන්නවා. ඒ සත්තුන්ගෙන් ආරක්ෂා වෙන්න ඕනි. එතකොට මේ කැලේ ඉතින් ගොඩක් භයානකයි.
අපි පේපර් එකට පමණක් Even though all of them sit for the same exam paper, these children lack the required facilities. We request the authorities to install a reception tower for the village.
මේ ගබඩ සිග්නල් කුණා ලබා දෙන්න කියලා. සියලුම බලධාරීන් ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා අපේ ළමයිට අධ්‍යාපනය නැහැ. ඒ නිසා මේ සංඥා පද්ධතිය හදලා දෙන්න කියලා.
අකුරු කරන්න සිග්නල් හොයන ළමුන්ට ඔන්ලයින් වෙහෙස නිවන ඔන් එයා පාඩම් මාලාව ගම්මැද්ද තක්සලාව සාමාන්‍ය පෙළ පහශි ශත පාඩම් සිංහල වගේම දෙමළ බසින් TV1 හා ශක්ති TV ඔස්සේ ඔබට පිළිගන්වන්නේ සතුටින්.
The inoculation of COVID-19 vaccines is set to take place at hospitals of the Tri-Forces from tomorrow to expedite the rollout of the jabs.
Army Commander General Shavendra Silva said people above the age of 30 in the Western Province can obtain the vaccine at these hospitals from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The main vaccination center will be kept open at the Army Hospital in Narahempita. In addition, vaccines will also be administered at the Verahera and Panaguda Army hospitals. The inoculation will also take place at the Colombo Air Force Hospital, the Ratmalana, Katunayaka and Ekala Air Force bases and the Valisara Naval Hospital. People above the age of 60 in Jaffna, Mulattivu, Kilinochchi, Anuradhapura, Gaul, Matara and Diatalava will be vaccinated at army hospitals and camps in those areas starting from tomorrow. The Army Commander said that the vaccination program is being implemented based on the instructions of the President.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Arundhati Mudannayaka, together with our interpreter this evening, Brian De Cruz. Good night.